It is my pleasure to be here today on the second day of this interesting initiative led by the Argentinian Embassy in the US that is enabling us to showcase our strong tech hub, its development, and how it has evolved over the past few years. I'm Gonzalo Valenci, Undersecretary of Technology Liaison from the Ministry of Science and Technology in Córdoba, Argentina. First of all, and on behalf of myself and the Minister of Science and Technology, we would like to thank the Embassy for inviting us to be a part of this conversation, where we will be diving into the universe and the depths of cybersecurity. Before getting into the panel and into the conversation, I wanted to share with you what we're doing here in Córdoba in terms of strengthening and enhancing the cybersecurity ecosystem. Last May, we launched the first computer security incident report team in the province, a project that aims to help the community to mitigate cyber attacks, as well as to create consciousness and awareness and generate more professionals in this field. This initiative stands out because it's led equally by the public sector, the academic sector, and the private sector, and we're working together to put Córdoba as a reference as a reference pole in the region. As you all know, the global growth of networks and information driven by technology innovation has enabled society to create prosperity and improve the quality of life. However, this rapid change has also created a long-term challenge, managing security risks as the world becomes increasingly reliant on technology. In the last PricewaterhouseCoopers annual Global CEO survey, results reflect that CEOs rated cyber attacks as one of the top risks to their businesses, potentially undermining the achievement of their company goals. When they were asked about the top threat to growth, cyber risks came up on top of the list, even higher than health risks and COVID. We also know that the pandemic played its part in the evolution of cyber attacks. A study from McAfee and FireEye on cybercrime in a pandemic showed that during the COVID-19, 81% of global organizations experienced increased cyber threats, with 79% experiencing downtime due to a cyber attack during peak season. And here in Latin America in 2021, damages for cybercrime amounted to around $6 billion. Therefore, cybersecurity has positioned itself as one of the most demanded technologies for organizations all over the world. COVID-19 obviously exposed the lack of preparation society had in this matter and has opened more opportunities for hackers to attack. But also opportunities arises for companies to provide solutions, to help organizations and people to be ready and aware when possible attacks may appear, and to train more people, offering new possibilities for professional growth and development. To talk about how to develop a security strategy and how cybersecurity has impacted today's world, we have 4 experts that I want to introduce you so we can get started. I'm joined by Dr. James Stanger, Chief Technology Evangelist from CompTIA, Hernán Silva, COO from CIO Landing, Carlos Jaureche, Commercial Manager from INSSIDE, and Roselyn Pinango Díaz, Q&A Factory Manager from Ecosistemas. Each one of them will be presenting for 10 minutes, and after all the conversation, we will have time for Q&A. The questions you can write them in the chat, and we will share with the speakers. In the case of Dr. James Stanger, once he's done with his presentations, we will open space for Q&A. So if you want to start sharing your questions once he's doing his presentation, that would be great. So James, let me introduce yourself really quick. Dr. James Stanger, he's a recognized authority in security analytics, penetration testing, information technology, open source, and workplace development. He has consulted with organizations worldwide, including the Japan Ministry of Defense, Microsoft, the University of Cambridge, the Australian Ambassadors for Cyber Affairs, the US Department of State, Oxford University, AstraZeneca, among others. He's an award-winning author, blogger, and educator, and he has written for O'Reilly Media, Linux Magazine, SC Magazine, Signal Magazine, among others. Many of his works has been translated into over a dozen languages. In addition to his work as an active IT professional, he has helped design global education, certification, and badging programs in topics as diverse as security analytics, Linux administration, and web development. James is a Chief Technology Evangelist at CompTIA, an organization that is the leading provider of vendor-neutral IT certifications in the world. With more than 2 million IT certifications issued worldwide, CompTIA is dedicated to helping IT professionals lead the change in our digitally connected world. James, can you hear us?
I can indeed. Thank you very much for the intro, man.
Go ahead. It's all yours.
Well, fantastic. I want to make sure first, can everybody see my screen? I've got about 10 minutes and I don't want to overstep or anything. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. And yeah, we're going to talk about what success means in terms of cybersecurity. And why not talk about frameworks at the beginning, because they can bring rationality and a little bit of reason if they're used right. Specifically, I'm talking about, we could talk about so many frameworks, but we'll talk about the cybersecurity framework. But let's talk about why they're important in the first place. And thank you so much for the introduction there. So I don't even have to introduce myself here. If you want to join me on LinkedIn, for example, you can join me at James Stanger. So why do security frameworks exist in the first place, right? And the answer, and these pictures here I took as I was on a hike in upstate New York, it's all about gaps and then finding a way to fill those gaps, right? Or to bridge them or whatever. And I couldn't help but see these pictures as kind of helpful in the discussion about where we can start. Let's start talking about the problem. There are a lot of different ways that we can talk about the security problems that we're experiencing today. We can talk about attack surface. We can talk about how we use technology, it was mentioned more earlier, more deeply than ever before. But I like to use the term cowboy IT. And cowboy IT, I really kind of mean, and trust me, I love cowboy movies. I love everything about them. They're a lot of fun. But cowboy IT I'm using as a bad term, okay? Kind of making it up as you go along. There are 3 elements to that you can see here that I'm listing. The idea of technical debt, shadow IT, and then no governance. By technical debt, I'm using that term from the programming industry, from developers, but I'm using it in a broader sense. It simply means as you make a decision moving forward in your organization, government, business, or whatever, what happens when it comes to technology is we make certain decisions to do something easy. Hey, there's not enough time to do what we have to do in terms of reviewing code, or making sure we do a security analyst job, or a pen test or whatever. And that creates a debt. When you skip a step, you have debt. And we all know what happens if you go into debt and don't pay it back, right? If you do that with a car or a house, you lose your car or your house, it gets repossessed. Well, in the security world, it's much the same way. Once you incur technical debt by not having proper code reviews, or sourcing a cloud solution and then not vetting it, you incur a debt. And what happens? Well, hackers come back and repossess your company in the form of ransomware or an advanced persistent threat. Shadow IT is simply where an element of your organization creates an IT solution but doesn't inform the IT department. So you have something lurking in the shadows. It's very common. We also see organizations not implementing governance, and that's where you have cowboy IT, or if you've ever seen Toy Story, somebody's poisoned the water hole. Remember that phrase, right? It's really kind of a toxic situation. So that's why frameworks exist. Another key point that's already been said, but I think it's worth repeating. We have traditional IT. We have so much new technology that we're using. IoT, edge networking, artificial intelligence. We're seeing more and more upstream issues having to do with hardware that's coming to us that might have hacks in it, or software that has problems. If you look at any of the major hacks, that's what's happening. Well, you've got to start somewhere to solve this cowboy IT problem. You've got to do something about it. There are a lot of different ways to do it, to say, well, there's a new sheriff in town, as it were. Frameworks can help you do that. Why? Well, they represent collective wisdom. Now, there are so many laws and frameworks, and I've listed quite a few little frameworks here. For example, the one that says framework and then recover, identify, protect, detect, that is the NIST cybersecurity framework. It's not the only one. There's ISO 27000, that whole series. There are also laws that we have to pay attention to. GDPR in Europe, California-based ones, those for Argentina. There's also something called PCI DSS. There's so many different ways that you can get going to say there's a new sheriff in town, or there's a way to clean things up. And I want to point out the reason why this is important is because we've got a situation where back in 2010, there are a lot of organizations that kind of combined IT and security all in one. after several significant hacks by 2015, people realized you've got to separate the IT function, which provides a service, and the securing of that service. You kind of have to have them report to different elements of the organization. That's why you have CISOs governing what CIOs do. Well, by 2020, after even more hacks, they realized that governance, risk management, and compliance, that management capability is extremely important. So really, there's kind of three hats that you have to think about. When it comes to frameworks, the NIST cybersecurity framework, which is often used by banks and things like that, is something that is part of a series of frameworks. NIST 800-53, NIST 847, NIST 800-171. Not going to get into great details about this, but the idea here is that frameworks represent some form of beginning. So for the rest of this event, you're going to hear about fantastic security solutions and security controls, but frameworks can bring about the beginning of a security policy where it all starts. So you start strategically rather than are always thinking tactically. One problem of security is that people tend to think very tactically and they don't look at the bigger picture here. So when it comes to a framework, you have to customize it, but it does create the ability to address cowboy IT, to enable hands-on learning for workers and upskilling them. And we've worked with NIST to help implement things such as the cybersecurity framework or the NIST, the NICE framework and other frameworks. So when it comes to the NIST cybersecurity framework or CSF, you basically have 5 different approaches where you identify attackers, you protect, you come about and enable detection and monitoring services. You then figure out how to respond to attacks and to recover. So those are the 5 different elements there. And various sectors, I mentioned finance and banking, ooh, I must be hungry, sorry. And banking, manufacturing, government all use it. And it can form the basis of a security policy. These 5 different areas are things to think about and how to implement them. So what you can do is you can start basically saying, well, in the idea of identifying, you can take a look at, well, what are your assets? What IoT do you have? What operational technology do you have? Do you have a lot of pipelines that you have to secure, for example? Well, how do you then go about protecting them? That's where you end up with identity management and access control. Detection and monitoring is so vital, that yellow bit. What kind of ways can you put together solutions to detect? And then how do you respond and recover to that? At CompTIA, we provide practical instruction to implement that. So if you want to protect and defend, you can see that there are programs that organizations can use. If you want to learn about analyzing, we have that as well. So the idea when it comes to using any framework, you don't just want to be compliant and then leave it at that. Many of the organizations, if not most of them that you've heard about, that have experienced hacks, from Colonial Pipeline to SolarWinds to name the company, most of them were compliant, if not all of them were technically compliant. But frameworks do make it possible to start a process. And to me, it's all about process. For example, you're looking at a screenshot of a product called Cybernet from a company called Cybernance. And I'm just using this as an example where you can identify progress towards a goal. So you'll notice the identify, the protect, the respond that's in this screenshot here. That's taken from the cybersecurity framework. And notice that you have these pie charts and these bar charts showing progress or lack of progress, or even not knowing what the progress is based on a framework. So this is what I mean by frameworks are a beginning of wisdom and not the end. But the idea is that you can then go about delegating and summarizing and documenting how compliant you are. It can help. But to add on to that, so you don't just fall into checkbox security, I would argue in the last minute and a half here, practical monitoring and data analytics is so important. You're looking at a very ugly little log file there. Well, what I've done as just an example, used something called Security Onion. It's just a little tool that security analysts use, and you funnel all of these log files that are tough to read, and you can start looking for trends. So you kind of start drilling down into a data set. And look, now you've got a bar chart, and now you've got pie charts that can help identify attacks. And then you can identify very important elements and very important steps to take next. So if you can start with frameworks, but it always ends up with some sort of practical implementation, including security analytics. Another practical skill set that's so important, cybersecurity threat intelligence, the ability to not only take data from your own organization, but also to share information and get information from other like-minded organizations. You're looking at a screenshot here of an alert that could be relevant to you. If birds of a feather flock together, right? Work together, etc. Well, imagine being in a group of organizations that can share information to create profiles and identify the next hit. In the last minute here, important skills include zero trust. It's Halloween, so why not talk about zombie movies? Zero trust and zombie movies actually have very common elements. I argue that most IT workers have been living in a zombie movie. And name your favorite zombie movie. Is it 28 Days Later, World War Z, Night of the Living Dead, whatever? But sometimes, like hackers, zombies can be incredibly fast in those movies. Sometimes they're slow, but they're going to get you eventually. There's the idea that the infection comes rapidly. It can happen to anyone. Your best friend can turn on you. They work separately. I'm bringing up these examples because zero trust is a very important set of technologies and best practices that make it possible to stop zombies, no, to manage hackers and to come up with a better defense and a better approach to security. So zero trust is another element that's very important. So as hackers work together, or as a friendly member of your team, or a friendly computer or process or something goes bad on you, you can identify that solution. And zero trust basically says that a perimeter is not important anymore because risk exists on both sides of the firewall. So to me, zero trust makes it possible to kind of get out of that zombie movie mentality because a perimeter can't help. You need to have better zero trust. Another skill that's very important is the idea of incident response. I've helped organizations help with their incident response capability. Most organizations do not test and make their framework, their policy, their incident response framework part of muscle memory. How do you do that? It's important to develop muscle memory and create playbooks so that that muscle memory becomes much more than just tribal knowledge. It actually becomes the wisdom and the ability to move forward to protect a company and respond well. So why are we doing any of this security stuff? Why are we doing frameworks? Well, to get past IT, cowboy IT, to enable true privacy, to go beyond mere compliance, to actually look for real vulnerabilities. So frameworks can create the necessary scaffolding and skeleton for your ideas. It's a place to begin. So I just wanted to end there. Thank you very much, because it's very important for us to figure out ways to make adjustments to our frameworks, to customize them, to enable more trust so that organizations can move forward with real confidence. So that concludes my particular presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. I can stay on as well for quite a while here. So thank you so much for your time.
James, thank you very much. Great presentation, great content. We had already a question over here, and it is, what would be the first thing you would tell an organization when they're trying to engage in cybersecurity strategy? The first thing you would say to them?
You know, it's a fantastic question. And I one time tried to answer that question and I failed because I didn't say this. And here's the most important thing. Policy. You have to start with a security policy, and that policy can't just be arbitrarily determined by techies. It's a policy that has to be generated to the needs of the organization. So you start with a policy-based strategic approach. I call that strategic IT. And at CompTIA, we've even done some research about that, about how organizations implement IT and security. So you start with a policy. You start with a security policy.
Great. We have another one. As an individual, where can I find guidance about these topics, or what websites do you recommend to navigate?
One of the things that you can do is take a look at CompTIA's research. I'll grab a link and throw it into the chat window. That's a great place to start. Another place to start, Security Journal, various security journals that are out there, Security Magazine, things like that, CIO and CISO type resources such as CIO Magazine, CISO, all of those types of magazines are fantastic resources. If you want to learn more about hacking and understanding it from that perspective. There's an old book. It's a great book called The Cuckoo's Egg. Believe it or not, that's the name of it, The Cuckoo's Egg. Good book.
Great. And we have another one. Is it a conflict when trying to get different certification like ISO or SOC2?
What about ISO and SOC2? Say that again.
If it is a conflict when trying to get different certifications.
Well, it's interesting you say that because when it comes to ISO and you can become certified by ISO, if you go down that path, then you're probably not going to do the NIST CSF, for example. There's so many frameworks, and certification in that case means that you're certifying not necessarily individuals, but the company. And so a conflict, once you go down a road, you choose a particular path that that is best for your business. In some organizations, it's best to go down that ISO path. In other organizations, it's best for the CSF. It often is dependent on what sector you're in, what industry sector you're in.
Yeah, and one last question that I have already here for you is, in terms of engaging, I'm not saying about creating, but engaging in cybersecurity strategy, like what part of the organization should, at the beginning, should be more engaged if there happens to be one?
Okay, if there happens to be an attack, or if you need to start down the pathway.
No, if you need to start working on cybersecurity strategy.
Executive. Great question, man. Executive management. You've got to start with, if it's a small company, you've got to start with the owner. If it's a larger, small, medium business, you've got to start with the CEO, et cetera. A larger company, you start with the board and executive management. Every time an organization has matured itself, and maturity is very important, it has started with executive management and based on policy and based on strategy. If executives don't know about what the IT department or the security folks are doing, then you have a problem.
James, thank you very much. It's been great presentation for me, really enrichment. So we say thanks and goodbye to James. And we're moving on to the next speaker. So I want to introduce you now to Hernán Silva. James, let me know, are you able to stop sharing your screen?
Oh, sorry about that. I guess it'd be nice if I did that. Apologies, folks. There you go. I'm hogging the screen. Sorry.
Thank you very much. So moving on with the conversation, I want to introduce to Hernán Silva, COO of CIO Landing, a company that specializes in IT outsourcing, providing business computer support, IT consulting, and network service. Hernán is also a member of the Entrepreneurs Organization Chicago. And Hernán, in 10 minutes, you will share with us about secure network technologies. So Hernán, if you hear us, the panel is all yours.
Thank you so much. Let me share the screen. So today I want to talk about the cyber insurance and what's going on in US about that. My company goal is to help 5,000 companies. So even if I give you some value with the presentation, you can create a new opportunity to provide service to your clients, or you can protect your business. So either way, I'm happy to help. I've been in IT since 1992. I have a CompTIA certification for the last 20 years. I keep learning. So what's going on with the cyber insurance? The cyber insurance right now are losing money. The increase of ransomware is rising very fast. Every year, in the last couple of years, the insurance are paying more and more for ransom. A lot of companies are getting denied. In the past, cyber insurance questionnaire was 2 pages. Now it's like 20 pages. They are requesting more and more stuff from the companies. When you get denied, it's very hard to get a new insurance again. The premiums are rising very much. They raised 92% in 21. This is where we found the opportunity with our clients. when we help them to reduce the risk, we help them to reduce the premiums. So we help them to save money there, and that is a good opportunity to sell another business, another solution for your clients. Or you should ask your IT to help you to reduce the premium. One of the hacks that is been increasing a lot is the emails compromise. That is an easy way to get into organizations. Maybe people say that I don't need cyber insurance. This is just risk mitigation, is how you, like the healthcare, the car insurance issues mitigate risk. And if you have $1 million claim and your company is down, you want to have the money so you can keep in business. One of the things that James talked a lot and is very important is to have a response plan. Many companies have no idea about this. And when you get hacked, people go and shut down the machines, and insurance don't like that because you lost track of what happened. So the insurance may not pay you if you turn off the machine. And the first thing you need to do is call your lawyer, not your IT. And then you need to make sure that no one in your company go to social media and talk about that. That can create a problem with your company trust on your clients. So it's many things on the plan that the entire company need to know, and anyone need to know what they have, what is the place on the plan if something happens. And in the middle of that is not the best place to try to figure out what everyone needs to do. The hackers, I don't have any data. It's possible. I don't believe that, but even though you have a email with a lot of contacts, so if they can get to your inbox, they can send emails to all your contacts from you, and that will allow them to hack a lot more computers because they will trust your email. So it's very important to just don't think only about your data. It's a lot of things that the hackers can get use of when they get into your network. Insurance don't like to pay. That is the case for any type of insurance. But one of the things, if you lie on any of the questions, or if they find that you are negligent for any things on your security, for you didn't have antivirus, you didn't pay for the suppression firewall, anything will be excuse for them to don't pay you. So you have to be careful about that. There are five most common questions. One is 2FA. I hope everyone at this time they have 2FA multi-factor on their emails, but this is very important and it's required that you must have to have cyber insurance. Another one is backup, but backup is not just I did the backup. Backup is make sure that you don't have, that no one in the company have access to that backup. It's always with a second account, with a second 2FA, to make sure that if the hacker can get to your email, they cannot get to your backup, because the first thing that the hackers do is go to the backup and delete everything. Antivirus is important, Windows Update is important, but there are a lot more applications like Adobe that you need to update. Most of the IT companies don't do it, so ask your IT company if they are doing updates for all the software, not only the Windows updates. Response plans, we talked about this before, very critical, very important, very long process. And if you find an opportunity to help companies creating this document, there's a lot of need there. And also the firewall, now with everyone working from home, you need to have a good firewall on the home computer to separate the home network from the business network computer, the home computer. And also the firewalls, if you are not paying a subscription for a firewall, it's very possible that it's not the right firewall for your company. We recommend Fortinet or Palo Alto. It's very important to have to spend a lot of money on good firewall for your company. Remember that the owner is responsible for this, and even if the is there's not the CTO, the CIO of the company. Everything ends up on the owner. 93% the securities are preventable. It's very easy to look back and see where it comes from and prevented. That is, understand that very easy, but it's a lot of, today we have a lot of training to the users is critical. Training, having anti-phishing software that can allow the users that this is the first time they receive an email, they call anti-phishing banners. We need to focus on the end user. That is the most important part where companies are getting hacked right now. This is my email. If I bring any value, please let me know so we can add you to the list of companies that we are helping. Thank you.
Thank you, Hernán. Great presentation, great content. Couple of questions arise. So the numbers are really interesting. You know, like 23% of companies you serve it only have planned for a response plan in an incident, and also 90% of the incidents are preventable. So those numbers I think are really important. What do you think could be a good way to make more organizations or to have more organization and to increase that 23% of companies having an incident plan in terms to respond to cyber attacks?
I've been in IT for 30 years and I did my first couple years ago. So I don't think people understand what happened. I talk to people that being breached. I talk to IT companies that being breached. So all the clients are being breached at the same time, and it's very chaotic. And that's why you have a fire drill in buildings that they do a test how to get out of the building, because it's very important to practice and everyone know and learn the mistakes. And any person that have a Instagram, they can go and say, oh, our company is hacked. And maybe you are not, or maybe it was very small breach and your company shut down completely just in case, but it wasn't that big. But you can lose clients because of that. You can go to the news and the company can go down very much a lot if you don't tell and teach everyone in your company how to act.
Another question is that we've seen a lot of companies that have all the information in servers, in physical servers, and after an attack, they start migrating to cloud.
Yeah.
How is cloud changing the scenario, like in terms of menace and opportunities?
I don't think it's much different if you don't have the right firewalls on the cloud. The cloud needs firewalls as same as your server. Of course, your ability to have a firewall in your office versus Amazon or Azure is going to be much better and more sophisticated in Azure than in your office. So it is a little more secure having in the cloud because you have more tools and it's going to be cheaper to manage, have a very expensive firewall or very well-maintained firewall versus someone at a small office.
Great. So for further questions, when we are done with all the presentations, we can go back here. We can go back here to Hernán and share some new questions. Hernán, thank you. Great presentation, great information. To keep the conversation going, I want to introduce Carlos Jaureche. He's a worldwide sales manager at INSSIDE Cybersecurity with more than 20 years in the IT and cybersecurity industry. He has held technical positions as well as management and business development. He's focused on cybersecurity 360, working towards innovation in the services offering cybersecurity. Carlos, welcome to the panel. You can open your microphone and the stage is all yours.
Here.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, excuse me. I couldn't reach the right interface. First of all, I want to thank the embassy and Argentina Discovers for the invitation to talk about cybersecurity and the opportunity to present our company and our vision about offensive cybersecurity. We are a cybersecurity company with more than 15 years of activity. We have presence in the regional market in the Americas, and from this year, also with presence in Europe. Our headquarters is located in Buenos Aires, and we have offices in Santiago de Chile, São Paulo, Mexico, and Madrid in Spain. And we have experience and reference in different industries and markets. For INSSIDE, our company is very important to have partnership with the main vendors of technology and cybersecurity solutions, in addition to having institutional and technical certification. We are certified in the ISO standards of quality and information security, 9000 and 27001. And we are also recognized as a great place to work, which speak about our organizational culture. Excuse me? No. Which is the current cybersecurity context. We are in an increasingly complex world where it is enough to see the press and the papers every day, where cybersecurity incidents are reported every day. We have large corporations with millionaire investment in cybersecurity, and in the same way they have large cybersecurity incidents. And that show us that the main problem is not the technology or the investment. The main problem is the way you operate and manage your cybersecurity. And our services, INSSIDE cybersecurity services, are focused in helping solve this kind of problem. So, as Hernán told before, a large number of companies are suffering cyber attacks and pay ransom and pay a lot of money to recover their data. So we have a focus in cybersecurity where we integrate 4 areas that guarantee the correct cybersecurity management in the organization. We have a governance risk and compliance area, a cybersecurity defensive area, a dev security, and the offensive cybersecurity business unit that we are going to talk about it now. We have a 360 cybersecurity vision in our company. We have, as I told you before, we have a GRC unit where we define policies, regulations, and governance of the cybersecurity. We also certify the PCI standard that applies for company that works with credit card information. We have a dev security unit where we implement and validate secure development methodologies and code review to identify vulnerability in the code for company that develops software or company that buy or acquire software. And we do the code review to assure that the code has no vulnerability from design or in the process of coding of the software development. In the cyber defense unit, we manage cyber security platform. We implement our cybersecurity architectures and cybersecurity processes. And we monitor, we alert, and we respond to the cybersecurity incidents. We have a cybersecurity defense center with a SOC, a cybersecurity operations center, located in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, where we have a SOC infrastructure based in CM and SOAR, and above that infrastructure we have different layers of services to monitor, to detect, and to incident response. And in the cybersecurity offensive unit, we have services based on red team methodology. Offensive security is a proactive and an adversarial approach to protecting computer systems, computer networks, and individuals from attacks. as defensive cybersecurity is focused on the reaction, such as patching software, finding and fixing system vulnerability. In offensive cybersecurity, we use techniques to simulate cyber attacks. We use the technique that attacker could use to get into our network, our system. Our services are oriented to the company, but also to the supply chain of the company, to the critical providers of an organizations, and to the end users of the company. Today, a big number of attacks come from providers and from internal users. So our services, our proposal services are oriented to the organization, to the critical providers, and to the internal users. Our services are based on the red team methodology, as we talked before. The processes start with the information gathering about the targets of the attack, or the target we are simulating an attack, the system, the networks, or the individuals, as well as the other relevant information about the company or the system. After that, our team plan the attack, determining which target to attack and what techniques and tools to use. We are based, or this kind of service are based in the Mitre attack matrix. I will talk later. After the planning, the team, or the red team, execute the attack using the techniques and the tools planned before. We have a stage of post-exploitation, where the targets are exploited to gain access to sensitive information, or to perform unauthorized actions, transactions, and to get evidence of that exploitation. At the end, we present to the customer a report, a technical and an executive report with the results of the attack, documenting all the evidence, the tactics, and the techniques and tools used to compromise that target. After that, the customer should remediate the vulnerabilities, and we do another process for revalidating the findings and assure that all the vulnerabilities were fixed or remediated. In the cybersecurity offensive, we test cybersecurity infrastructure and solutions, cybersecurity processes to identify, to protect, to monitor, to incident response. And we also test the training and skills of the cybersecurity staff and the end users. As we told before, and James told in his presentation, there are a lack of professionals in cybersecurity. So to test the training and the skill of the staff is an important point to keep the infrastructure updated and well managed. We have offering for specific technologies or sectors of activities. We have a specific services for ATMs, for money cashiers, to test if has the proper cybersecurity configuration. And we have a special offering for biometric and facial recognitions, used today for onboarding applications or transaction validations. We have different kinds of services: vulnerability scan, ASV test. ASV tests are required by the PCI certifications. We have an offering for define the remediation or the mitigation of the vulnerabilities, and also to manage the processes to remediate the vulnerabilities. The red teams, or different flavors, red team, blue teams, and purple teams, to interact with the staff or the cybersecurity teams in the company, intrusion analysis, simulation of attacks, or simulation of denial of services, industrial pen testing for IoT or for SCADA. Also, we have a portfolio for cloud security. We have a spidering solution to see what assets of the company are exposed to internet, and after that try to access or to vulnerate that assets. And that much of the red team offering are based on the MITRE ATT&CK matrix. We have more than 150 companies globally that trust their cybersecurity to INSSIDE. So we'll be happy to hear about you and talk about how we could help your organization or your cybersecurity organization. Thank you very much. And if you have any question, I will be happy to answer.
Thank you, Carlos. Great presentation. A lot of content that it's complementing what James and Hernán said. We have here a question. In terms of money paid for rescues, you said that 76% of the companies that were hacked paid the rescue. I want to ask you these payments. Let's say you have 10 cases of companies being hacked. How many you must pay, and how many others you don't have to pay?
Well, but by definition, you have not to pay in any case. As Hernán told, you don't have to pay ransom, but not to pay. But many companies are forced to pay the ransom because they have no way to keep in the business. They have no backups. They have no alternative infrastructure to keep in business, so they have to pay ransom to get their system back, get their data back. But as a rule of thumb, you don't have to pay ransom in any case. But for that, you have to have a resilient cybersecurity or a resilient company that could operate even if you have a ransomware in your organization or another malware in your infrastructure.
Thank you. And here's another one. With this 360 approach that you're working with, what do you think would be the new challenges cybersecurity may suffer or may face in the future in terms of how technology is moving forward and is advancing?
Technology is one problem in cybersecurity because the technology is always keeping better. Now we have quantum computing that could break a key, could break a password that before takes days or months or years. Now they can break a key in seconds, in minutes. That is a problem, that the more powerful technology is accessible for a lot of people, hackers between that people. And the other problem is that there is a lack of skilled cybersecurity professionals here in Latin America and all over the world. Hundreds of thousands of professional cybersecurity skilled people are needed, and we don't have enough resources to attend that requirement. So it's very important to work with a company that could help the organization to solve that kind of problems: technology, processes, and human resources.
And we have one other question regarding the payment of ransom. Do you have any case in which a company paid the ransom and then hackers ask for more money? And how can you be sure that if you pay, they will actually give everything back?
You will never be sure. Now we talk about the double threat or the triple threat. Now you have the the initial attack where the attackers could encrypt or could steal your data. This is the first threat, but also the second threat is that they will be make that information public if you don't pay the ransom. So you lost your information and you are exposed to the regulator, to the law if they make that information public. And the third threat about ransomware is that the attacker will use that information to attack your customers, to attack your providers, to attack another company. So you never will be sure that if you pay the ransom, you will recover the information in one side and not to be attacked in a second wave of that attacker, of another attacker.
We have two more questions, and then we are going to move forward to our last speaker, and then by the end of the session, we'll come up with further questions. So one question, Carlos, is the NIST here is already talking about post-quantum cryptography. We, Argentina, as a service providers, how can we prepare for that?
There are a lot of entities, universities, technology providers that are working on quantum computing, and there are a lot of institutions like NIST talking about quantum computing and how to solve or how to achieve the next step in cybersecurity in quantum computing era. So you have to keep an eye on this kind of information, this kind of documentation they are making public to know the state of the art on quantum computing and how cybersecurity and cybersecurity algorithm will be affected in that kind of technology.
And the last one, I think this may have like a lot of answers, but how can an enterprise recover after an attack?
Oh, well, Hernán talk about some things, some kind of backup you need to have to recover from an attack. This is where we talk about cyber resilience. You have alternative processing data centers, you have backups in the application. We need to have your data backup off the site. There is a lot of measures you need to recover from an attack. You also need all the governance, data recovery plan, business recovery plan, incident response. You have to talk with a company that could help you in an incident response. You have to see in your network or in your infrastructure there is no another malware before you recover from the initial attack. There is a lot of things to do.
Un dato que después la gente tuvo que hacer un montón de cosas con él.
Muy buen dato, Juan.
En este caso, ¿saben qué partido traigo? El de los tiburones contra los...
Okay, so we have some. At least
We have an incident in the communication.
yeah, luckily it's not a bad one. But Carlos, thank you so much for the presentation and for answering the questions. We're going to move on to our last speaker. Last but not least, I want to introduce Roselyn Pinango Díaz, Q&A Factory Manager at Ecosistemas. Ecosistemas is a global company that provides innovative technology, services, and solutions aligned with changes, market trends, and needs. They specialize in providing information technology, innovation, staffing, and managed services. With over 20 years of experience, more than 600 professionals, and over 80 big clients in multiple industries. They are selected within the best companies to work in Argentina, with ISO 9001 certification, with their own testing factory with extensive experience in manual and automatic testing, and with their own contact center and service desk services. Roselyn, welcome to the panel. And if your mic is already open, you're good to go.
Thank you, Gonzalo. Thank all of you for the opportunity. This presentation from I talk about on behalf of Ecosistemas. My presentation is called "The more agile testers are, the better." So we're going to talk about testing. I hear some of you, Carlos especially, talking about some specific kind of testing. Here in Ecosistemas, we are passionate about quality in general, talking about the software. Software is more than coding, actually is related with thinking about how the system could help the business from all kind of industries. We could talk about quality for hours. I think Carlos, Hernán, and James can talk for hours also about cybersecurity, which is a great topic. But well, let's go to the point because I have only 10 minutes. Let's see. Go to the slide. Okay, that's it. Well, it's not a secret that businesses are basing their operation on systems, especially after pandemic times. And what is expected from us is to take this system and to make it as best as they can be. That doesn't happen magic. Obviously, it takes strategy and expert team to evaluate them through continuous evaluation and changes from different perspectives. Also, one of them is security. With the agile trends in the team, software testing needs to redefine its role and be more efficient than they used to be, applying functional and technical perspective, using tools to improve the lead time, the time of life of the requirements, and work in a whole team approach, which is a quite common concept from agile trends. Because quality is not a niche, it should matter to everyone in the company because, as John said in this quote, quality is the best business plan. So if companies, big companies, used to release new version of systems every day, so are our companies ready to do that also? So it's a good question to make in these times. So let's see if quality is still important under an agile approach. So it's important to clarify that agile doesn't mean fast or dynamic. It's mean about efficiency and the possibility to get better every day. That means that quality is important under all the approaches, but its process needs a different speed, and that requires a big challenge for all the team, including the testers, the developers, all the roles. It's a big challenge for us because software testing must be redefined, as we said. So there's needed an evolution of the software tester role that is used to SIM. No? This evolution includes participate as early as possible in the software development lifecycle process with an active role in improving the requirements we're talking about from functional, non-functional perspective as performance or security also. This role includes an evolution by forgetting a specific time of testing. Obviously, we need to promote testing for overall the life cycle with strategies like starting early with automation that really can help to speed up the test execution. Behavior-driven development, also known as BDD, can help a lot because this approach introduces the collaboration and the cooperation between the roles. Also, this new role needs to develop a new profile for a tester by learning about the business, but also about technology. They need to develop new technical skills as a resource to improve the way testing is done on a daily basis. And in the last but not less important, they need to take care about the independence of the tester role, as the standard said, when defining the best approaches, the best strategies, according to the requirements to be tested. Talking about the agile testing principles, of the main of them, well, as the testing agile principle base, companies needs to think of testers as quality assistants rather than quality assurers. That means that testers are not that person who can assure the quality of the software. They are only a role, one of the roles of the team, because testing needs to occur throughout the development process with a continuous approach by using technical points of view and also learning about the business every day, because business change sometimes faster than technology, and that is so fast. Remember that quality is a whole team responsibility and start from the beginning of the requirement that need obviously the participation of all of the team and the evaluation of the system from different sides. What else is important to say here? And about the documentation, which is so important. I almost forget about that. In an agile testing principles or approach, there is no more document specifications. There is now, let's talk about user stories, which is living stories that are changing everywhere, and that any role can be part of this process to come to finish this user story. So if your company is not on the left of the slide, or some specific company, maybe they need to think about to change the quality policy. It's always time to adapt new practices, because that will help us better results with our software. Talking about the specific role of agile tester, which is our specialty in Ecosistemas as a big testing factory, attending some customers from different industries to be aligned with the new trends on how to develop software. Software testing needs to be better every day. And we need to understand about these agile values and principles. Some of them, if you remember, talk about thinking more on individuals than processes, delivering working software than documentation or contracts, and being able to adapt to changes also. An agile tester needs to be trained for this, and some testing factories, as us, work frequently updating our professional with functional, methodological, and technical, and also soft skills needed to be in this kind of teams with a different dynamic and with a fast time to market. We have to deliver requirements and changes in the system as fast as possible. The best tester will be the one who is flexible to learn and implement new ways of testing using standards, using all of their knowledge about the business is part of. The agile tester is also a promoter of quality from all different kinds of sites throughout the software development life cycle, starting as early as possible, as I said before, with testing activities that the team can participate in, and in the meantime, is mindful about learning from new experiences in the process, focus and thinking on defect prevention by implementing new practices next time for better results. It's about learning, no? They call lesson learned. Soft skills are also needed. The tester can use them to decide when, what, and how to automate, because automation is not a magic one. It's a resource that the tester can use to speed up the test execution stage by talking about functional and non-functional evaluation. Some companies think that testing is limited to validate that the system has some features enabled. Also, that testing is also about making clicks, but it's not. It's also about performance testing to show how visibility has the system. For example, when what is the behavior of the system when a lot of customers try to use it, a scenario that also every company wants to have, obviously. Or security testing, as my partners talked before. For example, being sure about how is the behavior of the system in receiving a suspicious input in a field, focus on SQL injection or cross-site scripting approaches. All of them is related with testing, and it's important to take care about, and not also making clicks or some specific manual tasks. I'm sorry, in conclusion, quality is not an option today. Quality is demanded by customers. Every company and every business has their own definition of quality. Maybe some banks take care more about security. A different kind of industry take more might care about different attributes of the quality. So what is important is that quality is demanded by companies whose businesses are absolutely related to the proper operation of the system. Testers have a relevant role and must be prepared for a new dynamic within agile approaches, but always taking care of the independence of their role to be better every day. And focus on the customer satisfaction, which is the main goal of every company. That's why testers must work as close as possible with the rest of the team, promoting quality at all times. This is the whole team approach about. Some practices can be useful as automation, technical tools, and keep learning every day. In my case, that's one of my secrets also. Testing factory can become change agents for that by being experts about what the tester role should and have to be, and learning every day how the testing needs to evolve to be updated to the dynamic and to the business. So this is my presentation. This is the email, so feel free to contact us whenever you need. I'll be sharing in the chat my LinkedIn page. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
There you go. I was on mute. Thank you, Roselyn. Great presentation. So you can start jumping your questions in the chat. I wanted to ask you, like, what are the conditions, like the minimum conditions in order to work in an agile with an agile framing in terms of testing? What should be the minimum that the organization should have covered in order to work with this methodology?
That's an interesting question. I think it's quite important that the tester, talking about specifically the role of the tester role, the tester needs to evolve, needs to be more than a person who read a document and to execute some specific steps. Needs to have a whole understanding about the system from a technical perspective, from a non-functional perspective. As I said before, the tester needs to be conscious about the system is not only a software. The software is in a server, in a network, and they need to be part of it in the testing strategy. So it's required that the tester could be evolved every day in a technical perspective, but also keep learning about the business. So I think those are the both skills that the tester needs to have. Obviously, they need to keep improving their soft skills like communication, negotiation, and their capacity to be an influencer of testing within the team.
That's great. And I wanted to ask you about the profile of this new tester professional, because it's evolving a little different from probably traditional tester. How are you dealing with finding the right profile in terms of this new tester performer?
Well, in companies like Ecosistemas, which are specialized in software testing, we used to train the new profile of tester, because, as you said, it's quite difficult to find a person with business knowledge, with testing methodological knowledge, and also with technical knowledge. But we have some candidates and some testers from the development teams, for example. One of my cases is myself. I used to be a developer. Now I'm a tester using my technical skills every day. So I think it's a mix of knowledge, and I think the companies need to cooperate by training this kind of profiles and preparing for the future. We need to be more technical, more business related, and conscious also.
Well, Roselyn, thank you. Well, we have a great panel. We have great conversation. We covered a lot of the topics that are really hot right now in terms of cybersecurity. We've experienced and we've shared about how to adapt a cybersecurity strategy, how important it is for management and executive levels to be involved in adopting a cybersecurity strategy. We've talked about the opportunities and the gap that we've got for companies to start adopting plans in case of cyber attacks. And there's a huge gap in there with a lot of opportunities to become more prepared. We've also covered about ransomware and the new scope that cybersecurity is offering in terms of dealing with cyber attacks, and also the importance of adjusting and implementing agile methodologies and working with new professionals and shifting professionals so the industry can become better and more sharp. So on my behalf, I want to thank James, Carlos, Hernán, Roselyn. I want to thank the embassy for the opportunity. Hope everyone enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. So on behalf of myself and the ministry, we are at disposal and thankful for the opportunity. So with this, we close the panel, the conversation. We look forward for the next days and the next conferences happening in this Argentina Deliver initiative. Thank you very much, and you all have a great afternoon.